A mother's sacrifice. Every strong child stands on unseen sacrifice. Before the success, before the confidence, before the future, there was a mother, working in silence, giving without limits, loving without conditions. This is not just a story of motherhood, this is a story of strength, pain, faith, and legacy. This is a mother's sacrifice, one silent struggle. The world is asleep. Lights are off, streets are quiet, dreams are being lived behind closed eyes, but in one small room a single light is still on. A mother sits beneath it, her hands are tired. Not from one day of work, but from years of giving more than she has. Every movement is careful, every sound is controlled. Because in the next room her child is sleeping, she could rest. Her body begs her to, her eyes burn, her back aches, her hands tremble, but rest feels like a luxury she hasn't earned yet, so she keeps going. She works in silence, not because the work is easy, but because love has taught her how to endure pain quietly. No one applauds this moment, no one records it, no one knows how heavy this night feels. And that is the silent struggle. She has dreams too. Once she imagined a different life, a life with time, with rest, with choices, but dreams change when responsibility arrives. She didn't stop dreaming, she redirected them. Now her dreams have a face. Now her hopes breathe. Now her future sleeps in the next room, so she sacrifices sleep so her child can dream safely. She sacrifices comfort so her child can grow strong. She sacrifices today so her child can have tomorrow. Her hands are worn, but they still work. Her heart is tired, but it still believes. And when the weight becomes too heavy, she reminds herself of one truth. This is not suffering, this is purpose. Because one day that child will wake up in a world shaped by nights like this. Nights where a mother chose love over rest. Nights where pain was silent but strength was loud. And even though no one sees her now, history is being written under a dim light by trembling hands and an unbreakable heart. This is how greatness begins, not in comfort, not in ease, but in the quiet sacrifice of a mother who refuses to give up even when the world is asleep. Two, giving up dreams. Before the sacrifice there was a dream, a quiet dream, a personal one. A dream of education, of freedom, of becoming something more. She once imagined herself walking a different road, books in her hands, confidence in her step, a future that belonged to her. But life doesn't ask when responsibility arrives, it simply arrives. And when it does, dreams are tested. Not all dreams die, some are surrendered. She didn't fail her dreams, she chose a greater one. She chose a future that didn't belong to her alone. She set aside classrooms to become a teacher at home. She set aside freedom to become a guide. She set aside comfort to become security. Not because she was weak, but because love made her brave. Every time she says not now to herself, she says yes to her child, yes to opportunity, yes to possibility, yes to a life without limits. The world may call it sacrifice, but she knows the truth. It is investment. An investment paid in time, paid in exhaustion, paid in moments she will never get back. She watches her child grow, learn, ask questions she never had the chance to ask. And in those moments, something inside her heals. Because even though she walks behind, she knows her child is moving ahead. She may never wear the title she dreamed of, but she is building one. Mother, builder of futures, protector of hope. Architect of possibility. There are days she wonders, what if things had been different? And then she looks at her child and realizes, nothing could be more meaningful than this. Her dream did not disappear, it multiplied. It became stronger than ambition, bigger than comfort, more powerful than success. Because one day her child will walk into rooms she was never allowed to enter. And when they do, they will carry her sacrifice with them, invisible but unbreakable. So if you are standing where she once stood, torn between dreams and duty, remember this: some dreams are not meant to be lived, they are meant to be passed on. And there is no failure in choosing love over applause. There is only legacy. 3 empty plate, full heart, the food is ready, not much but enough for one growing child. She places the plate in front of them carefully, as if abundance lives in that small portion. Eat, she says softly, and she watches. She watches every bite, every smile, every moment of strength being built right in front of her. She tells herself she's not hungry. She tells herself she ate earlier. She tells herself she'll eat later, but the truth sits quietly beside her on an empty plate. Hunger is not new to her, she knows its language, she has learned how to ignore it. Because some hungers are louder than food. The hunger to protect, the hunger to provide, the hunger to see her child grow strong even if she grows weak. She smiles not because she is full, but because her child is. That smile costs her more than anyone will ever know. Every skipped meal becomes a building block. Every sacrifice becomes nourishment. Not for her body, but for her child's future. The world may never count this as work, may never call this strength, may never reward this choice, But this is where resilience is born. At tables like this, with empty plates and full hearts, she remembers times when there was enough for everyone, and times when there was barely enough for one. And still she chose the same thing every time, her child first, not because she has to, but because love leaves no other option. And while her stomach aches, her heart stands tall. Because she knows something the world often forgets: you can survive hunger, but a child cannot survive without love, so she gives love generously even when resources are scarce. She feeds hope. She feeds courage, she feeds tomorrow, and one day that child will sit at a table of abundance. They will eat freely, confidently, without fear of lack, and they may not remember the empty plates, but they will carry the strength those plates created. So if you are walking forward today with opportunities, with food, with freedom, remember this: someone once went without so you could have enough. Honor that sacrifice. Not just with gratitude, but with purpose, because an empty plate filled a future, and a mother's heart, though often unseen, was never empty. 4. Shield from pain. The world does not protect children. It tests them, pressures them, breaks them when no one is watching. So a mother makes a decision, one that will cost her everything. She steps forward and says, "Let it hit me instead." She becomes the shield. When hardship comes knocking, it meets her first. When blame is thrown, it lands on her shoulders. When suffering spreads its weight, she absorbs it quietly so her child can keep breathing freely. The child sees a softer world, not because the world is kind, but because a mother stands in the way. They don't hear the insults, she does. They don't feel the rejection, she carries it. They don't understand cruelty, she understands it too well. She allows herself to be misunderstood, judged, criticized, because protecting innocence matters more than protecting pride. There are moments when the weight bends her spine. Moments when the silence screams. Moments when she wonders how much one heart can hold. But she does not break, because behind her is someone who still believes the world is safe. And she refuses to let that belief die too early. She teaches strength without saying a word. She teaches courage by standing firm when no one applauds. She teaches love by enduring what she never passes on. The world may never see the bruises that don't show, the nights when blame keeps her awake, the loneliness of carrying pain no one else will share. But every hardship she absorbs becomes space. Space for her child to grow, space to learn, space to dream without fear crushing curiosity. She is not hiding her child from reality forever. She is buying them time, time to grow strong, time to build confidence, time to become ready. That is not weakness, that is wisdom. That is leadership. That is love at its most dangerous, because it chooses sacrifice over self-preservation. And one day, that child will step into the world with their head held high. They will face storms with courage. They will stand their ground with confidence, not knowing how many storms were stopped before they arrived, but feeling strong enough to survive the ones that remain. So if you are carrying pain that doesn't feel fair, remember this: you may be someone's shield. And even if your strength is invisible, even if your sacrifice is unspoken, it is shaping a future that will one day stand tall. Because the strongest people are often raised behind the quiet courage of a mother who chose to stand in the storm so her child could grow in the light. Unseen tears. When the house goes quiet, the world thinks the struggle has ended. Lights are off, doors are closed, breathing slows. And that's when her strength finally gets permission to rest. She sits alone in the dark, no audience, no witnesses, no one to be strong for. This is where the tears come, not loud, not dramatic, silent. Tears that never fall in front of her child. Tears saved for moments when love demands privacy. She cries not because she is weak, but because she has been strong for too long. Every tear carries something she never shared, the fear she never spoke, the doubt she never showed, exhaustion she never admitted. In the daylight, she is unbreakable. At night, she is human. She cries for the dreams she set aside, for the help that never came, for the weight that keeps getting heavier. And still, when morning arrives, she wipes her face and becomes strong again. Because her child does not need to see pain, they need to see safety, they need to see belief, they need to see hope. So she hides the tears and wears courage instead. This is the cost of being someone's foundation. You don't collapse, you absorb. You don't complain, you endure. The world may never know how many nights she cried herself to sleep, how many mornings she woke up with swollen eyes and a steady voice. But those tears mattered. They carried the pain so it wouldn't reach her child. They released the weight so she could keep standing. And in those unseen moments, she rebuilt herself quietly, bravely, completely alone. One day, her child will grow older. They will notice her strength. They will recognize her sacrifices. And maybe then they will understand that courage isn't loud. Sometimes, it cries in the dark and still shows up in the morning. So if you are carrying pain in silence, if you cry where no one sees, know this: your tears are not weakness. They are proof that you loved deeply and stood strong anyway. Because a mother's sacrifice is not just in what she gives, but in what she never allows the world to take from her. Child, even when it costs everything, shield from pain, there comes a moment when love is no longer gentle. When it hardens, when it stands its ground, this is that moment, because the world does not care how young a child is, it does not wait, it does not soften its blows. So once again a mother steps forward, she does not ask permission, she does not hesitate, she places herself between cruelty and innocence, and she absorbs the impact. When hardship comes, it finds her. When blame looks for a target, it lands on her shoulders. When suffering spreads, it stops at her heart. She becomes the place where pain ends. The child never sees the storm, only the calm she creates in front of them. They don't hear the harsh words she does. They don't feel the rejection, she carries it. They don't understand the cruelty of the world, because she refuses to let it reach them too soon. This protection costs her. It costs her peace, it costs her rest, it costs her parts of herself she will never get back, and still she stands, not because she is fearless, but because fear is lighter than regret. She knows one truth: pain can shape a child before they are ready, so she holds it first. She lets it hit her so it doesn't break them. She carries blame so they can carry confidence. She bears suffering so they can carry hope. This is not weakness. This is strategy. This is strength with intention. She is not hiding her child forever. She is training them silently, by buying time. Time to grow strong, time to build belief, time to learn who they are before the world tries to define them. And one day when that child finally steps forward in their own, they will face hardship with courage. They will face blame with clarity. They will face suffering with resilience, not knowing how many battles we're already fought for them, but strong enough because someone stood in front of every storm. So if you are carrying pain today that doesn't belong to you, remember this: you may be someone's shield. And shields are never thanked for the blows they take, but without them, everything behind them falls. Because the strongest people are not raised by comfort. They are raised to be someone who stood in the fire and refused to move, a mother, a shield. Sacrifice of the world may never see, but will always feel worn hands. Gentle touch, look closely at her hands. They tell a story she never speaks out loud, hands marked by years of labor, by work that never ended, by days that demanded more than her body had to give. These hands have carried weight, heavy bags, heavy responsibilities, heavy sacrifices. They have cleaned, built, held together lives when everything else was falling apart. They are rough, calloused, scarred by time, and yet when they touch her child, they become gentle. When those same hands wipe tears, they soften. When they hold a small face, they forget the pain they've known. This is the miracle of a mother's love, strength that knows when to become tenderness, power that chooses kindness. Her hands may ache, but they never hesitate. They guide, they protect, they comfort. In the middle of chaos, those hands become safety. In moments of fear, they become reassurance. They say, "You are safe," even when she is tired, even when she is hurting, even when she has nothing left. The world sees worn hands and assumes weakness, but worn hands are proof of work done for others. They are evidence of sacrifice. They are metals that will never shine but will always matter. Her child may not understand the cost of those hands today. They only know the feeling, warmth, care, love, and that is enough, because long after the hands can no longer work, the comfort they gave will remain. It will live in confidence, in compassion, in the way that child treats others. One gentle touch can outlast a lifetime of struggle. So if your hands are tired today, if they carry signs of sacrifice, remember this: worn handskins still shape gentle hearts. And there is no greater strength than the ability to be soft after everything you've endured, because a mother's sacrifice is not just in how hard she works, but in how love English still reaches out. Even when it hurts, faith in the future. There are moments when she has nothing left, no strength, no answers, no guarantee that tomorrow will be easier. And yet she believes, not because life has been kind to her, but because love refuses to quit. She looks at her child and sees more than what is. She sees what could be. She sees possibility where others see limitation. The world may remind her daily of what she lacks, but faith is not built on abundance. It is built on belief. Even when resources run dry, hope remains full. She may not know how it will happen. She may not see the path clearly, but she trusts that her child will rise above circumstance, rise above struggle, rise above the starting line life placed them on. Her belief becomes fuel. On days when she is tired, faith keeps her moving. On nights when doubt whispers, faith answers louder. She speaks life into her child's future even when her own feels uncertain. She says, "You will be more, you will go further, you will live better," and those words take root. Because when a child is believed in deeply, they grow differently. They stand taller, they try harder, they dream bigger. Faith does not change the present, it shapes the future. She knows she may never see all the results of her sacrifice, But she plants anyway. She plants discipline, she plants courage, she plants self-belief, and she trusts that one day those seeds will rise. So if you are walking forward today in a path built by sacrifice, remember this: someone believed in Yawen, there was no proof. Someone trusted your future before it existed. Honor that faith, because belief is powerful, especially when it costs something. A mother's faith can lift a child out of any beginning, and even with nothing left, she gives the one thing that changes everything: unshakable belief in a better tomorrow. Love without conditions. She does not keep score, she does not count sacrifices, she does not wait for recognition. Her love does not ask, "What will I get in return?" It simply gives, again and again and again. A mother's sacrifice is unconditional. She expects no thanks, no praise, no reward. She gives because love demands it. She shows up on days when no one notices. She stays when walking away would be easier. She forgives without explanation. She believes without evidence. Her love does not depend on success. It does not shrink with mistakes. It remains steady even when the child fails, even when they fall, even when they forget. The world teaches conditions early: be good to be loved, win to be valued, perform to matter. But a mother teaches something different: you are loved because you exist. That lesson becomes armor. It builds confidence. It builds courage. It builds a sense of worth that no failure can erase. She may never hear the words thank you. She may never be repaid for what she gave, but she does not love to be rewarded. She loves to see her child grow strong. This is not weakness. This is the highest form of strength, because unconditional love costs everything and demands nothing. It does not control, it does not limit, it does not chain, it frees. And one day that child will love others with the same depth, not because they were taught how, but because they were shown so. If you're standing tall today, if you have the courage to try again, if you believe you are worthy, remember this: you were loved before you earned anything. Honor that love, carry it forward, because the most powerful force in any life is not ambition, not talent, not luck, but the unconditional sacrifice of a mother who gave everything and asked for nothing. 10. Legacy of love. Time passes, children grow, years move forward, and slowly the sacrifices that once filled every day become invisible, but they never disappear, they live on. The child she protected now stands on their own, stronger, kinder, braver, not by accident but by inheritance. They carry something unseen: the weight of late nights, the strength of empty plates, the courage of silent tears, the protection of a shield that stood in every storm. They may not remember every moment, but they are every moment. Every time they choose patience, they carry her endurance. Every time they choose kindness, they carry her gentleness. Every time they rise after failure, they carry her faith. A mother's sacrifice does not end when a child grows up. It transforms, it becomes character, it becomes values, it becomes the quiet strength others admire but cannot explain. The world sees success, but behind it stands sacrifice. The world sees confidence, but behind it stands love. The world sees independence, but behind it stands years of protection, belief, and pain absorbed by one heart. And one day the child looks back, not with guilt but with understanding. They realize the truth: they were never walking alone. They were carried long before they could stand. So they live differently, they give more, they stand stronger, they love deeper, because legacy is not money, not titles, not applause. Legacy is the impact one life leaves on another. And no legacy is greater than a mother's love. So if you are building a future today, remember whose sacrifices made it possible. Honor them by how you live. Carry that love forward. Because a mother's sacrifice does not fade with time, it becomes the strength that shapes generations. And that is the legacy of love. And when the story ends, the sacrifice does not. Because a mother's love doesn't fade with time, it becomes strength. It becomes courage in the face of fear, kindness in a hardened world, hope when everything feels lost. Long after the nights of struggle, long after the tears, long after the silence, her sacrifice lives on in who the child becomes. So if you are standing tall today, if you are walking forward with purpose, if you are building a future, remember this: you are the proof that her sacrifice mattered. Honor her not just with words but with the life you choose to live. Because a mother's sacrifice is never truly seen, it is felt, carried, and passed on. And that is how love becomes eternal.